All-American half pound of 2 pure beef patties, lettuce, tomato.
Singles going steady.
This is Singles Going Steady, the podcast dedicated to exploring great singles with a particular eye to the punk, new wave, and DIY eras of the last century. I'm Steve McGowan.
I'm Adrienne Meddock, and we're in a band, the Beef People, who released a single in 1986 on our own label, Zub Records. But we're record collectors and passionate, especially about the expression of pop music perfection that is the single recording. Exploring the mystery of what makes for great singles, what propelled us to begin this podcast. What episode are we up to now?
Okay, today we're doing episode number 034, and we're going to talk about the Boston, Massachusetts band, The Neighborhoods.
Oh, I love The Neighborhoods.
Yes, we all do. And their first single on Ace of Hearts Records from 1980 called Prettiest Girl, with the B-side No Place Like Home.
These are both great songs.
Yes, and we have a lot to talk about with The Neighborhoods. They are a Boston band. They were a very young band. David Minahan is the singer and the guitar player and the chief songwriter.
He's the total package.
Yes, he's a total rock star in the best sort of way possible.
Great singer, great lyricist, great guitarist.
Just does a good show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's great. He's a great guy too. They were big in Boston when I was still living in the Boston area in 78, 79. You would hear them on WBCN radio out of Boston. They would play their demos, and they won the Rock and Roll Rumble in 1979, which led to their single, which was released in 1980. They were always going to be the next big thing, The Neighborhoods, and I believe they had some management issues because they didn't put out a record for a long time. But this single was on Ace of Hearts, which is the label of The Liars and Mission to Burma, and a lot of bands that we really like.
The Neats, we talked about the Neats
yes,
previously.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so definitely a good pedigree here. And it's very early period Neighborhoods. We'll find that their sound will change a little bit. The songwriting is always stellar. Prettiest Girl is just a killer song. Yeah. And so is No Place Like Home. So let's go ahead. We'll listen to the original single from 1980, Ace of Hearts Records, The Neighborhoods, and Prettiest Girl.
tell yourself you don't need him. You tell yourself
right, Prettiest Girl. You can definitely hear. We were discussing it earlier. A little bit of Joe Jackson.
Yeah.
A little bit of Jam.
To get that late 79, or, early 80,
Yeah.
the beginnings of sort of new wave post-punk.
Kind of a little teenage angsty.
Yeah.
A little bit. But even though the lyrics are a lot more mature than just your typical, teenage anthem.
Yeah, I got the feeling that maybe, for them, this was the thing that put them on the map in Boston.
Yes, they played it all the time.
Maybe they got a little tired of playing it and maybe felt like it was early, pretty natal, early version that they've not a mature work, but and there's a later recording.
Right. They're going to re-record the song, and we'll play that for you later on. So our story with the neighborhoods is long and very fruitful. We had the chance to play with them.
Yeah, we were booked to
The Beef
open
People.
for them.
We opened for them in Raleigh at the brewery, I believe.
Right. And I don't know how we got on the bill.
Yeah.
Just constant calling.
Yes.
Please let us open.
Right, and we didn't know who they were. They didn't know who we were.
And we fell in love.
Yes, but tell them the story about the Jam.
There during sound check, the bass player does not play on the single, but was
Right.
sort of their longest.
Lee Harrington.
Lee Harrington. That Lee was just messing around with his bass, and he was trying to play the opening line to the bass run from Funeral Pyre.
By the Jam.
By the Jam. And he was getting close.
Which was a song we actually knew how to play.
Yeah, what was one I knew how to play. And so, I asked, can I play through your amp? And, I go up and plug in and play, the line from Funeral Pyre. I think I got a little brownie points for
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
It's like, hey, the girl can play Funeral Pyre. She's all right by me.
Yes, good.
It's like the scene, with Marshall McLuhan in the Woody Allen movie. The thing you need to happen never happens, but it happened.
Right. And so playing with the neighborhoods was definitely the lightning strike moment for me. We would do the thing where we would go in, we'd set up, we'd sound check, and then the band would go and get something to eat, but one of us would stay with the equipment. And this particular day, I was the one with the equipment, so I was there watching the neighborhoods. They set up, and they tore through a cover of the Nervous Eaters' Just Head because I'm in a rush. And it was just the most unbelievable thing I'd seen. It was like seeing Iggy and the Stooges or something. It was just, I was completely blown away.
These guys are so primal. It's the
and
power.
so good. Yeah, and so good. And when Adrienne came back, I think the first thing I said to her was, we have to book this band. We've got to do something. We've got to get this band in our town. And we hadn't had the idea to book bands before, but I wanted to hear the neighborhoods in Greenville. And I think Adrienne agreed with me after we saw them play. And that was pretty much the start, the reason that we
began booking bands. We started
bands.
the Tuesday New Music Night in Greenville, South Carolina.
Which was very fruitful for a number of years, and we had the neighborhoods all the time. They were, for a band so far away from Boston, they played quite a bit in Greenville and in Columbia. They would pick up gigs at Rockefeller's because we would book them here in Greenville, and they were always fantastic.
Yeah, you can hear a little bit. This is an early single, but they were just everything that you would want in a rock and roll trio.
Yes, indeed. So before we go waxing on more about the neighborhoods, let's listen to the B-side of the single.
And I think the B-side catches a little more of the flavor.
Yes, it does. It kind of rounds them out. It's a song called No Place Like Home, and the B-side of Prettiest Girl was released in 1980. Ace of Hearts Records, here's the neighborhoods.
Every day is a crisis. Dad comes home and he's nervous. The
So I love when he's going on about, which grade he's in, and by 12th grade he's expelled. He never learned his lessons. The lyrics are very sly. And again, I get that kind of that Joe Jackson-y feel in the singing and the lyrics, although the music's a little heavier in a good way. It's a rockin' song. It definitely rocks. And we have... I am known for having an extensive archive of live recordings. We've got some recordings of the neighborhoods. Of course, I have actually dozens and dozens of recordings of the neighborhoods, but we're going to play a couple of things. Should we do that now, or should we talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, go ahead and play a snippet.
Let's play a little bit of Prettiest Girl. This was recorded in 1990.
So this would have been with Lee Harrington on bass.
Yes, in April of 1990 at Rockefeller's in Columbia. And just, you can tell, just by this recording, how good they are live. We're going to play a little bit of them doing Prettiest Girl live.
I love the neighborhoods so much live that, this may sound unwise, but this is something that I just had to do. There was no choice. There was no argument.
We don't recommend you do this, kids.
But before my very first final examination in law school, the evening before, so like I've taken no tests. I have no idea if I know what I'm doing or what's going on. The Hoods were playing in Raleigh, which was half-hour drive and, late show, 8 a.m. exam. And I was like, I'm going to see the Hoods.
It's time to rock.
I don't have a choice. There's no argument. I'm going to see the Hoods. And, but, I'm a good girl. So not only am I up against the stage and like, hi, do you remember me? I'm Adrienne. I play bass. And they were like, of course we remember. Yeah. But I'm standing there because I've got to get a good place with my handmade flashcards that I've made of tort law.
That is so rock and roll.
A bundle of like 100 flashcards made by hand.
Did you make Lee read them to you?
No. Do you mind singing this? The Reasonable Man Standard. Change all your lyrics to give me, the elements of negligence. But long story short, that I ended up getting the highest grade in the class on that exam. And, I didn't dare tell my colleagues, I was out,
out rocking till 1 a.m,
out rocking
right?
with my friends, the neighborhoods, the band I adore,
yes.
Because not only do you have the late show, but then the half-hour drive home.
Right.
And I I think I had a friend drive me, so at least I could do the flashcards
in the car.
on the drive there and on the drive back. So I was probably more well prepared than folks that had got a good night's sleep.
Plus, you got all the rock.
Oh my, yeah. Well, I think I attribute my success to
Yes.
the rock and roll lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely. So, again, we keep talking about how good they are live, and another thing about the Neighborhoods was impeccable choice of cover songs. We were just batting it around, and we remember that they did "California Man" by Cheap Trick, which is actually an old Move song. They did "The Damn New Rose."
Oh, their New Rose was just astounding.
It was great. And I remember them doing "White Punks on Dope" by the Tubes, which is a song you don't hear very often. "Ace of Spades," of course, by Motorhead was one of Lee's standouts. He would turn the mic down and pretend he was Lemmy.
But they were just a machine.
They could play
pure
anything.
Rock machine that can play anything.
Yes.
And from power pop to basically metal.
Yeah, I mean, they had the chops. There's no doubt about it. So to back that up, we're going to play just a little bit of the live version of the B-side, "No Place Like Home." This is something I recorded in 1986 in May at Rockefeller's in Columbia. The Neighborhoods doing "No Place Like Home" live.
There's no place like home. Apologize so proudly. Every day is a crisis. Death is all that he's done us. He is a dignity can't breathe. Don't have me to you. It's hard to do. I know boy, I know it's not gonna do. Boy, I know what you're going through. Anything was dead. Life's not easy as a big wing. Always taking our beat. Time spent as my highway. Everything we ride. I'm still clear of memory. Boy, I know what you're going through. Boy, I know what you're going through. Come on, girl. Those great strays, arms around, 26 places, arms around, just one time, red light, identity, light, wait, let's go, listen, is a bright night, everything's a crisis, death is always better. It's me and me. Don't have me to you. That's not what you can do. I mean, boy, I know what you're gonna do. Boy, I know what you're going through. I still always pretend. Oh, I still always pretend.
All right, that was "No Place Like Home." The Neighborhoods do have a kind of a checkered past with their records. They were on a couple of labels that didn't work out so well. Restless Records held them up. They had put out the record called "The High Hard One" on Restless, which is probably our favorite record.
Yeah, and that's going to be my recommendation.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, it's definitely worth checking out. And they had a couple other records on Emergo, and then they made it to Atlantic, and they were a
Miller Band.
That's
Miller
right.
Beer had like a program where they were sponsoring a number of bands, so they did Miller
Yeah.
Bands, Miller Beer Nights.
Yeah.
It was a promotional.
There were a lot of Boston bands involved.
Yeah.
The Del Fuegos were one, I
Yeah,
think.
and the idea, this sort of cross promotion.
Yeah.
To get people in the clubs drinking Miller and
Right.
making Miller cool.
Right. And unfortunately, they made the band get another guitar player, which I don't think really worked out so well because honestly, they didn't need another guitar player. David Minahan is just amazing on the guitar.
There's not really a
Yeah.
place for it. You're not missing anything. I
Right.
don't know what
Not
it
at
would
all.
add.
So, but they got the deal with Atlantic. They put out a record on Atlantic that's just called The Neighborhoods, and it was produced by Brad Whitford of Aerosmith. And there's a long story that I'll keep short about when Brad couldn't make an Aerosmith tour in Japan because of family issues, and David Minahan from The Neighborhoods actually went over and took Brad Whitford's part in Aerosmith for a Japanese tour. So I know that was a big deal for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
Boston band getting to play an era.
They were definitely his heroes, and but they got Brad to produce their record, and it's very heavy. It sounds like a Aerosmith record, and they re-recorded "Prettiest Girl," and we're going to play you a little bit of it now. The re-recorded version of "Prettiest Girl," Brad Whitford producing "The Neighborhoods."
So you leave work early, so you get ready to meet your boyfriend. Your girlfriends think he's the living end. You're the prettiest girl, and you're the busiest girl, but in your everyday world, you're still the loneliest girl. Tell yourself you don't love him, just as you kiss him. You tell yourself you don't need him. You tell yourself you will leave him. You're the prettiest girl, and you're the busiest girl, but in your everyday world, you're still the loneliest girl. Your face is long, your emotions are gone. It's either that way, or they hit you at once. So face yourself, baby, brace yourself, don't kid yourself. You're the prettiest girl, and you're the busiest girl, but in your everyday world, you're still the loneliest girl. Hey, hey, hey,
So there they are, the later period Neighborhoods, kind of gone from the angry power pop sound to a little bit more metal-y sound. Still great. It's still a great song. Prettiest Girl
Right.
is, no matter how they treated it, it's,
It stands up to
You
this-
would cut your arm off to write a song like that.
Right.
I mean,
and it stands up to the Aerosmithization
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, you could hear Tyler singing that.
Right. Well, speaking of hearing singing it, if you could have someone cover this song, whether living, dead, imaginary, fictional, who would you like to hear cover the song?
Definitely, I think for Prettiest Girl, I would like to hear The Jam.
The Jam. Now, that's definitely dead and imaginary at the
Yeah.
same time, right? That's not coming around again.
And to bring the circle around, I think for No Place Like Home, I'd love to hear the Replacements do it.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely in the dead and imaginary category as well.
Because as you may or may not know, David Minahan was the guitar player in the reconstituted Replacements that toured recently, and just did a fabulous job with them. He played with Paul Westerberg solo before, and that's how good of a guitar player he is.
Yeah, he's a remarkable guitar player.
And a great singer, and just a great songwriter. Do you have a recommendation,
I
Adrienne?
do have a recommendation.
You get to go first for a change.
Yeah. And so I'm going to recommend a record, right? Because that
Good.
tends to be how this goes. Our first recommendation tends
Yes.
to be a record. And as foreshadowed, as foretold, it's the High Hard One, which I don't think you can go wrong, particularly with any of the earlier, with any Neighborhoods album in
Really,
general.
yeah.
But in particular, the High Hard One, there is not a single note wrong, not a song that is not perfect. It's catchy all the way
Yes.
through. It
I
really
agree.
has the power pop bones are there, and really like punk pop.
And a real rockin' spirit.
Yeah, and it's just a perfect record.
It has WUSA on it.
And
Arrogance.
when you'd hear this live, everybody, it was just a sing along at the top of your lungs, because this was
Just the best.
Yeah, the best, right?
Yeah.
It would an experience to see the Neighborhoods perform these songs live, and
Right.
maybe you can capture a little bit of that with the recordings, but the recordings on their own are worthy. They're
Yes.
not a pale shadow.
Yes, the studio recordings, the High Hard One by the Neighborhoods. My recommendation would be, I'm just going to follow the David Minahan trail, and he is kind of settled down now when he's not doing the Replacements. The Neighborhoods still play. They play it, but just basically in the Boston area.
They have a really great Facebook group.
Yes.
That posts like this day in Neighborhoods history.
Right,
So it's
right.
great, and it's like I was at that show. So
And Lee, the bass player, is in the long tradition of lawyers who are bass players, as we have one here on our podcast as well. And but David has opened a very, very nice recording studio. It's called Woolly Mammoth Sound. It's in Waltham, Massachusetts, on the outskirts of Boston. We'll link to the website. You can check it out. They have everything. He knows what he's doing. He's worked with a lot of great acts. I'm not going to go on and on about it, but I know they did the newest Buffalo Tom record there, and they've done a bunch of things. You can listen to it. We wish him the best. The Neighborhoods were always very kind to us. They're a very good band. They were one of the most popular bands we ever booked.
the walls would just thump with
And they were the
happy,
reason.
full room of incredibly happy people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that went to Studio B in Greenville that will remember them very fondly.
Oh, yeah. I'm one of them.
Yes, indeed. So that's it for today. Number 034, Singles Going Steady. The Wonderful Neighborhoods from Boston, and Prettiest Girl, and No Place Like Home. It's been great talking with you.
And get the High Hard One.
Yes. Talk to you soon.
To learn more about the artists and recordings we just talked about, visit our website at zubrecords.com and click on the Singles Going Steady icon.
You'll also find links to the persons, places, and things we recommend, and much more.
You can find episodes of Singles Going Steady on our website or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Singles Going Steady is brought to you by the power and majesty of Zub Records.
Zub Records. Smart sounds for sharp people.
Today